I'll let you know.
There we go. All right, we are live. Welcome, Business Inner Circle family. Happy Saturday. We are here with a very special member spotlight with Russ Harlow. I'm going to let you actually introduce yourself. Well, actually, okay. Reliable Remediation is your company name, correct?
Yes, sir. We do. We help people restore peace of mind by restoring their property from water, fire, mold damage.
So I have some questions. Now, I think we've met. Um, well, I followed your podcast. You had an amazing podcast.
It was okay. We were really proud of it. It didn't get the following we had hoped for, but Dana and I really enjoyed doing it and just wore ourselves out.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that. And honestly, like I told so many people here in the Facebook group, I posted it all the time, not just my episode, but all the episodes. It was honestly, it was my favorite business related podcast. And I just yeah,
We
sad.
miss doing it. We learned a lot from just talking with folks like you and
Yeah.
business owners. I every single episode was an I wasn't sure what the listeners were gaining, but I gained something every single week when we talked to people. I mean, and then we started doing the interviews where we were asking the kind of lightning round and we were asking people their favorite business books. And I just added to my library all these great
Yeah.
books that are now on my list and I kind of listen to. And, it was a great growing experience.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, I listened to I think every episode. Maybe I missed one, but I'll have to go back. Um, and it's just business in case people want to go because it's still available, right? People can
Yes.
still listen to it. Um, I don't know what episode mine was, but there are some really good. One of my favorite episodes, actually. I mean, I love listening to the journey of other business owners. But I remember one of my we're going to get into all about you in a second, but more deep because there's a lot of similarities with what you're transitioning and your journey and my journey. Um, it was just you and Dana. Well, first of all, my favorite part of the podcast was the beginning, the banter a little bit that the between the two of you.
Totally unscripted, always off the cuff.
Seriously, it was really, really fresh because a lot of them are a lot of podcasts I find are very now are very like commercial. They're very, well
Overly
produced, they're
produced.
polished,
Yep.
polished and the advertising and all the stuff. And you guys is just like just a conversation and some fun and then very personal. And but one of my favorite podcasts was just the two of you. And you guys went in pretty deep into some of the challenges you both had. And I would say it was raw. It was
Yeah,
raw.
well, we always sought to do that. I mean, it was just full transparency. I've been on other podcasts, other conversations like with you, and it's just, I got nothing to hide. And, I know that people can learn from it, especially if I'm further along in my journey,
Yep.
and, I appreciate it when others do that. So that's just the way to live.
No, 100%. See if we have any. If you guys have questions in the group, just post them in here because I know we have like thousands of people watching right now live. But even if it's honestly, even I say that sarcastically, even if you're watching the replay of this, post the questions in the vid under the video, the comments, the questions. We'd love to hear from you. Um, okay, so when did you start your business?
Um, well, we opened in 2017, officially in 2018. I went through new owner training. We, so it's been 6 years now.
Okay, but you were under a different brand at the time, correct?
Yeah, we I can take a minute just to talk about what the impetus was to go into business.
Yeah.
I was working a lot of different jobs, just kind of paying the bills and making sure the mortgage was all set and everything else. And my wife was homeschooling our kids, and my middle son, our middle child, was giving her a lot of fits and giving her a hard time, and just probably too much like his dad, I guess. And she needed more help. They needed more help. And I needed to be around more. And I started looking for opportunities in business so that I could have a little bit more freedom than leaving the house at 5 a.m. and getting home at 7 p.m. Um, and being gone and unavailable. And we fell into franchising because when I was looking for business opportunities, I went to a franchise expo and realized this whole world existed. Um, and the whole and the whole world exists to sell franchises. I mean, it's not always about building a great business, and I think that's where franchising has changed in the last probably 10 or 15 years. Um, it's been about selling units, not about building up local businesses and really building a brand. But I didn't know that. And in the industry, they have franchise consultants that help bring you brands and sell you, a business, and they get a little piece of the action when you pay that franchise fee. They get a piece for bringing a vetted, client to the franchise. And I actually I worked with two because I didn't trust anybody, because nobody made money until I spent it. So I trusted nobody in the entire process, and I had two bringing me competing brands, and they knew it. They were 100% knew it, and I felt like this was the only way I could really find it. And I learned a lot about myself. My wife and I went through about 12 or 13 different brands, and we created a decision matrix, and we started ranking things that we found important about the brands and what they offered and what they would mean to us. And what I learned through the process, like in the beginning, I said, listen, I don't care if it's a porta potty. Like, I don't get like my self-worth from the type of work that I do. Like, I don't care what it is, good margins, whatever it is, and I can make it work. And what I learned about myself in the process was I learned how important it was to me to to do something that is truly helping people. And the brand that I bought into was owned by the founder at the time, and I bought into him and his vision. And the core values there really resonated with us, and that's what sold me on that franchise. Then about 2 years in, he sold that franchise to a larger franchisor. Whoa. And no hard feelings. That's why he did it. Like, I get it. Like, I'm building a business because maybe I want to tell it one day. It's okay. But that franchisor got bought by a larger franchisor, and things went downhill for the brand. And that's where I ended up right here, going independent.
So, yeah, we're going to get into all that because I went through
Sure.
the same thing. So where are you located for our listeners?
We are in New England. We are in Connecticut, the quiet corner, like located between, like, everybody's like, well, Connecticut's tiny anyway, especially in comparison to British Columbia. Yeah. Like, you're a whole territory. But so we're, in the kind of corner. We're halfway between Boston and New York, over near Rhode Island.
Okay. So the most important question I have for you today, actually, I'm taking it off script here, is, are you a Bruins fan?
If I have to follow hockey, I guess I would be a Bruins fan.
If I have to follow hockey.
I mean, I love. Well, listen.
No, I know,
love hockey.
but you have a few.
And I get it.
But you have a few other sports there to follow. So,
I haven't really followed professional sports since going into business. We're a baseball family and really love the Red Sox. I grew up a New York Giants fan in football because my dad was a Giants fan. And when he was growing up, they were the only ones on TV around here. Patriots were. And we had the Hartford Whalers for a long time, who are now the North Carolina Hurricanes or the Carolina Hurricanes. And we just, hockey's left a bad taste in our mouth around here. But I do love hockey.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, I grew up in Winnipeg, which is sort of central Canada. And
Jets.
There you go. And so Hartford Whalers, still one of the greatest jerseys of all time.
Yeah, really, really great emblem.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on from sports, I want to hold it against the Red Sox and the Bruins. I know that's okay. So why did? Okay, so 2 years in, you just decided, like, how long was your franchise agreement?
10 years, and it started going downhill as soon as the new franchisor took over.
Yeah.
And then a year later, another franchisor. So we went through 3 presidents in a year, and I was on the franchise advisory council and kind of the squeaky wheel. Mm-hmm. So by the time 2022 rolled around, so that's year four, um, it got to the point where I was making so much noise that they said, "You seem unhappy. Maybe you should leave." And I
Oh,
said, oh, really? That's not what I had anticipated. I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to make things better. I mean, that's really the whole point of this. But it was not well received, and I didn't want to leave anything unevaluated. So I said, "Hey, please, send me the mutual termination agreement, and I'll consider it." And I asked them to take out the non-compete clause, and they agreed. And here I am.
wow. That's very rare, I think.
Yeah.
That's very rare. Because I got into a franchise in 94. Similar situation. It was an American-based franchise, the main one, but the Canadian rights were local, actually just down the street. And I bought into his vision and very charismatic, very good. I was family. And then, yeah, it's probably about 4 or 5 years. And then they sold it back to the US franchisor and everything changed. And everything they treated, I don't know, it's not about me, but they treated like, you might resonate with this. Even in the United States, there's different, like marketing wise, you need to market and message a little bit differently. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the same all across. And Canada is very different than the United States in how people perceive marketing and messaging, and they didn't understand that. So, but pardon the pun, I was disenfranchised, and no, I mean, they wouldn't let me go. I mean, we were one of the most successful in Canada, or Western Canada at least. But eventually, over time, then they sold it again, and when my agreement was up, I waited. I tried to get out before, they wouldn't let me. Like they wouldn't let me. So it was about 11 years in, and then I got out. But I had to move 2 miles, change my name to protect the innocent. Obviously, change the name, but not my
I,
name. But
I was a little more fortunate because we were struggling. We were having a hard time, and we weren't getting the support from the franchise that we thought we deserved. And I
right,
thought, but we were still. It's not like we just expected them to make the phone ring for us. We were doing all the things we needed to do. Okay,
yeah,
but we were still struggling, and they just thought I was just going to fail and that I was kind of a crank, and they didn't really care losing us because we weren't a big revenue generator. But the moment we left the franchise, my brand went live the next day.
yeah.
And I spent the weekend cleaning my social media of all the old brand and put the new brand in. And I had dozens of phone calls for weeks from other owners in the network going, "How did you get out?"
Oh wow,
And they precipitated a mass exodus by letting me out.
wow,
So bad that the franchisor has now terminated the old brand in a sense that it's going to run out their contract, and they've created a competing brand underneath the umbrella of their family of brands
right.
for new franchises.
Change
That's
the
how
name.
bad it got.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
whole new brand,
On the brand.
they're a whole new contract, a whole different franchise, and they're allowing the old brand to just kind of die out,
Yeah,
let their contracts run their course.
yeah. I mean, I think franchising is a good model for the right person, but you can't, like you said at the beginning, like you did the work, and like you said at the beginning, the franchising is a business. Selling franchises is a business, and a lot of times they bring in, like I know even just the franchise I was part of, um, here in Canada. I mean, they brought in that we had 21 locations in Canada, and when I left, there was five, and now I think there's zero. There might be one. And they just brought people in that weren't entrepreneurial. And that's a problem with a lot of franchises. They bring people in who don't have the business background or expect, like, that the old saying, the old adage in franchising, you're in business for yourself, not by yourself. you're really by yourself. I mean, they're going to tell you, they're going to give you marketing and all this stuff, and hopefully you get support, but a lot of times you don't. But a lot of people go in and just think like, I want you to hold my hand and do everything for me. And you need to do it. You need to go out there, especially like you need to make the calls and pound the pavement and collect money. They're not doing that for you.
No, absolutely. And let me say this to be fair, I never could have gotten into this industry on my own.
Yeah.
Like buying into a franchise was the only way I could start this up and be successful,
Yeah.
to be honest, because I had no experience in it. Right. So if I had had some experience, then maybe. But they gave me the startup tools, and
Mhm.
I never ever would have been able to do that without a franchise. So I do admit that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting fact. One of my coaches, one of my franchise consultants that brought me brands, back in the day, was also a franchisee. So the franchise consulting firm was also a franchise, and she had been a franchisee, and she had been in other brands, and one of them was one of these bug spraying mosquito type brands. There are quite a few. I don't remember what the one was. They had a plan as a franchise to, when they first opened, to bring in a certain type of owner, and that owner was going to build a business, and then when their contract was over, they were bringing in different types of owners who could then maintain and grow from there. It's kind of like, we'll go back to our sports analogy.
Mhm.
Certain coaches are brought into brand new franchises. Why? Because like what's his name, a manager will be brought in because they need to grow a young franchise,
Right.
but
Yep.
for the first 5 or 6 years after that, they may not be able to go to the next level, and they fire them for the exact reason that they hired them, and they bring in another manager or general manager or whatever to then build to the next level. And this franchise did that. I found that interesting because most don't have that kind of foresight.
Hmm.
They want to try the person who can start from ground zero with a brand new brand, let's say, and then take them to, you know, national brand. And they're just those franchisees don't exist.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. So I see your post. I follow you on socials, which you can put your links in below and everyone can follow you. I love your posts, your videos. You're very on the, what I love is you mentioned serving. You might not have had a passion for your industry going into it, but you have passion for serving people, helping people.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of getting out of bed in the morning. That just makes me do what I do. That and the detective work, trying to figure out what's causing problems and
Yeah.
trying to find a solution for folks.
So do you have tell me about your family. And are they, because I've seen, are they involved in the business?
Yes.
Yes. So tell me about your family.
So, I mean, from the beginning, I was doing this so that I could spend more time, especially with my kids and my oldest son, who's our middle child. So the kids all have worked in the business one way or another.
Mhm.
Both of my boys are on payroll. They're 16 and 18 now. My 18-year-old, who was the 12-year-old that precipitated me needing, me around more. He's been doing this since he was 12,
Mm.
crawling around in attics and learning what to do. And, when he turned 16, he started getting all the same certifications that I had, and, was really thinking he was going to take over the business. But then he got to, 17, 18 and wanted to kind of do his own thing. And so he's trying to start a landscaping business, and he's, kind of hitting the Facebook forums and the local, communities, and I can do this, I can do that, I can help you. And zero hard feelings. I just wanted to make sure he has the freedom to do what he can do. I told him right up front, I said, I'm not going to hold you to what you said you wanted when you were 12. Okay. And I'm going to help you succeed no matter what you choose to do. And he still helps me when he's available. He's been on jobs, it's a little less landscaping this time of year. So he still helps us out. And, it's been an important part of what we do.
That's awesome. I mean, family, I know, I can tell just by talking with you before and you're posting it, family obviously number one.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all you got.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what do you enjoy the most about this entrepreneur roller coaster ride we're all on?
What do I enjoy the most? I even on the hardest days, I guess, I look back and I think I could probably make double what I pay myself for someone else, working for someone else. But I've had so many bad managers along the way in my life that I cannot go back to taking orders from somebody I just from somebody else. So at the end of the day, what I enjoy most is just knowing that the buck stops with me. I have no fear of that responsibility. It's not easy. It's very hard, but I don't care because, man, I can't stand listening to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about and or has a managerial style that I don't really gel with. Um, 5 decades of dealing with that my whole life. I'm not going back.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Um, what about the opposite? Like, what's the most, what's the most challenging part?
So, I mean, I have a college education. I'm not a dumb guy, but the ins and outs of really creating a successful business and not just owning my own job is the most challenging for me day to day. So that's why I try to listen to podcasts. I try
Mhm.
to read books. I try to, network with people who are, above me on the next level so that I can learn from them. Understanding that there's just so much more that I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
and knowing that I'm the weak link in the whole thing. So I have to continue to try to improve myself.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I rarely hear that from people, but I love that because that's um, that's leadership. Like knowing and taking accountability and ownership and surrounding yourself, knowing our weaknesses and then surrounding ourselves with people who are smarter, more skilled than us. And I know you have coaches, you have your own coaches, having that people to push us and encourage us and call us out when we need it, right?
No, 100%. And last year I started, I'm working with another business owner. We're accountability partners. So we maintain that relationship. When you are on your own and you've got nobody to answer to,
Yeah.
we have a phone call once a week and we have breakfast once a month together and we help each other with business and bounce ideas off each other. And we say, hey, what are you going to have done by next week? And we hold each other accountable for those things. There's a lot of things you can implement into your life to help make that happen. So you're not just spinning your wheels, death scrolling on Facebook because you have nothing to do today.
So I'm curious. So speak, please, if you can, speak about the accountability partners, because I've mentioned that to our group many times. If ideally, if you can get a coach or a mentor, uh, some people don't have the financial resources, so an accountability partner, but it has to be someone who's has skin in the game like you do. So how does it work? And is the same industry, different industry?
Different industry, but he's a realtor and a home inspector.
Okay.
So we have opportunity to work together in the past. We were in a business networking group together, both prior service. So there's kind of a camaraderie for those who have been in the military, even though he was in the Navy. I mean, you know, those guys. But so there is a camaraderie there, right? So there was, and we did some homework, right? About There's great articles about bringing on an accountability partner and the questions you want to ask each other and how do you want to be held accountable
Mhm.
and having those conversations ahead of time. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. I played baseball in college and my roommate was a pitcher, and he's not one of those guys. He literally turned around and said, look, guys, if I'm not doing well, don't be like, come on, man, you're going to be all right. Throw a strike. Here we go. He goes, yell at me. Tell me I suck. Tell me to bear down and really get in there. He told us as a team how he wanted to be held accountable because that was going
Mm.
to motivate him. So having that conversation with accountability partners is important because
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't want to be held accountable in that way, it's going to be more detrimental than anything else.
Yeah.
but you're just going to tick him off, and you're like, oh, okay, well, you get him next week, buddy. That's going to tick him off because that's not how he wants to be communicated with. So
Yeah.
some of those conversations are really important to have ahead of time.
No, those are great tips. Because it can be, obviously it's very beneficial to be able to have that, whether it's because let's face it, I mean, most of us are significant other or our friends are not in business. Uh, if they're in business for themselves and they get it, but a lot of times they're not, and then we're just sort of, you said before, like we're alone, and just being around other people who have your back but will push you is really important, and not just that sort of like, here's the participation badge, good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's been very helpful. Um, and again, it just trying to learn and make those changes in business to all those things that I don't know, and I don't know that a master's in business administration would have made a difference.
Mm.
um, there's a lot here that's just not theoretical when you're
Yeah,
in business anymore,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, 100%. Okay, so if you knew then what you know now, two-part question. I'll ask that one first. If you knew then, would you going into business, would you do anything different?
Would I do anything different? It's hard because you can say ask the same questions in life, right? And even your failures and the tragedies that have happened in your own life have shaped who you are. And I'm comfortable with who I am. So, but did I make mistakes? Would I have joined the franchise that went downhill 2 years in the future? I mean, hindsight's really 2020.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I mean, given the yeah, well, you didn't say. You said if I knew now what if I knew then what I know now. Yeah, I guess maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. It's actually a silly question because yeah, but our, like you said, I think our you wouldn't be where you are today if you hadn't gone to where you were before.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, all of those things are learning experiences. I
Yeah.
mean, either you succeed or you learn, and that's
Yeah.
what failure is, an
Yeah.
opportunity to learn.
Okay. So, final question. Entrepreneurs starting out or thinking about getting into business or kind of just like struggling a little bit. I know, in the United States and Canada, the economy is kind of, it's been a bit of a rough year and interest rates and everything. What kind of advice would you give to people wanting to get into business or early in business, struggling in business, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, the list is long. One, just because you do something well doesn't mean you should go into business doing that. Um, I from my franchise consultants, it was all like, if I had experience doing something, they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to sell that to you because you're going to get stuck in the business and you become a technician in the business and you never grow it. You know, the whole working in your business, not on your business.
E-myth.
Absolutely. And so, that's one of those things you need to look at. I mean, certainly you have to do your homework. You have to really understand your market. Just because you have a great idea doesn't mean people are going to buy it. Just because there are 100 other people, there's just so much. I mean, yeah, do your homework. Don't just go into it because you can do it well. Learn as much as you can about business marketing. I mean, all of those things. I've hired so many different marketers that now I know so much more than it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because they just have this cookie cutter approach. Oh, we're just going to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the people in my region or in my market. So you have to become really good at a lot of things. Start studying, stop watching TV. Literally get off of Netflix, stop scrolling YouTube, unless you're studying stuff that's going to teach you how to be better in business or in your industry or you're continually learning. whatever it is. If you want to become an expert in your industry, spend an hour a day, reading. That's 365 hours. That's, it's practically, it's a semester's worth of learning.
Mhm.
You become an expert within your industry, in no time. And that's a big thing. There's just so many things you can do. Listen to, get a coach. Having an extra set of eyes is a great objective, because we have the blinders on too often. And a great coach will really help you see the things you don't see or you don't want to see.
That's awesome. I like that last part. Or don't want to see. And listen, we've all been there.
Yeah, we have.
That's why they have that term, ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's really not bliss. Any parting thoughts for our group?
Listen, it's hard. It's hard, but it's okay, because anything worth doing is not easy. So if your passion is there, continue to work hard and press on. But it's not always about the harder you work, the more you do. Continue to learn and work smarter. It's really not killing yourself to get it done. You don't have to.
Yeah, no, that's great. Words of wisdom and words to live by. Russ, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here as a member spotlight. I wish you all the best moving forward. And guys, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box or the comment box. Listen, he's been through it. He's been through the ringer, and it's not easy, but it's doable. We just have to get in and do the work. And really stop watching Netflix, not even like a little bit,
All right, maybe a little bit.
just a little bit. I'm watching a really good show now. We'll talk off screen with that. All right, guys. If you want to be a member, a future spotlighted member, just reach out to me. Hope all is well. Take care, and we'll see you next time.